Hi guys, just a quick course on speech making, and this is part one, the introduction. The first thing you need to understand is that the length of your introduction should be around about the 30-second to 1 minute mark. Now, this does depend on how long you have to speak. If you've got a 4-minute speech, you're going to want around about maybe the 30-second introduction. If you've got a 6 to 7 minute speech, then you're looking at 1 minute for an introduction. You can be a little bit more in depth. So that's the first thing. It's a very important thing to note, so just note that. Now we start with your introduction. So it goes like this: hook, address, thesis, introduce your texts. Now, let's start with the hook. The whole idea of the hook is to instantly get your audience listening and interested, okay? You're not just going to walk in and say, "Good morning, boys and girls." We don't encourage that because, one, it's boring, but B, we want you to engage us and to hook us in. And that's the whole point of a hook. And you can do that by maybe an anecdote, maybe a short story about something, a quote from the text, a statistic, or your main argument. Depends what you're trying to get across, really. Then you move into your address. So once you've hooked them in, then you say, "Good morning, boys and girls," or teachers and students. And this really is what differentiates a speech from an essay, is the fact that you're addressing the audience directly and you're saying, "I'm here to present this speech to you." So the address is really important. And then you move into your thesis. Now, your thesis, like your essay, is a statement that answers the question, and it shows what you're going to be arguing. If we boiled your argument down into one sentence, what would your sentence be? Now, remember that it has to in some way agree or disagree with the quote or the statement or the question, but it also has to provide why you disagree with it. So, for example, in its most basic, a thesis is, "I agree with this blah, blah, because it can be this, this, and this, and this." Or "I disagree because of this reason." And this really sometimes has nothing to do with the text you're studying. This has to do with the human experience or the human element. If you're talking about a poem and the question is, how do these poems relate to this? It could be such a thing that's saying, well, it doesn't because blah, 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 or it does because blah, 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 blah. You don't use quotes in this first part. You don't do anything. This is just stating your main point. Then you move from that into your introduction of your texts. So this is where you'll introduce your text. If it's poetry, introduce the poems you're talking about. If it's prose or film, state the title and the author. This is really important because you need to get across that, yes, I understand what I'm actually talking about. I know the text that we've studied. I know how we're looking at. Now, again, this is an English speech, a speech for PE or a speech for society and culture could be very different. Okay, because where it has the introduction of text, you would actually probably introduce maybe studies you looked at or cultures you looked at. But for English, you have to introduce those texts. And this is a big one, and I'm going to put this at the end of every video about speech making. Remember that the tone of your poem will change between audiences. Okay, and because you're doing it in front of teachers and students, it's going to sit somewhere about the semi-formal. Remember, the essay writing is very formal. Speech is around about the semi-formal. If it was a speech in front of just a group of your peers, you're probably looking at semi-casual or casual. Okay, so we're looking at the semi-formal part of this continuum, where it's formal language, but you can be a little bit fluid. You don't have to be as uptight as an essay. Okay, so that is part one, introduction. Good luck. If you've got any questions, ask your teacher.